everybody, it's the Three Things here on the Blathering Ken Napzok YouTube channel. What is this place? I don't know. At one point, we just showed squirrel footage for a while. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in today. This is a new version of my old podcast, The Three Things. We're going to get right into it here. I have not wanted to wade too much into the public discourse around the murder of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, at the hands of their son. It's also like the third high-profile son-killing parents case in the news over the last week or so, which is disturbing as well. But it is on my mind this week, so maybe more of a serious episode this week. I apologize if that's not your speed. That's totally okay. We'll be back to silliness very soon. But I talked a little bit about it on Tuesday on Culture, Faith, and Politics Live with Pat Conkey, the show I hope produce every Tuesday. Please hang out with us over there. But man, I was a Rob Reiner fan. I'm such a fan of This is Spinal Tap. Such a fan of The Princess Bride. When Harry Met Sally, I can't even explain. Like, I think for those folks that came on to the Ken Napzok pop culture podcaster train, you've heard me talk about it before, but you know, if it was possible to start a When Harry Met Sally podcast back in like 1989, I even at 12, I would have done it. I also apologize. There's some noise. There's some construction going on in my house, which is always a unique kind of stress because you need stuff done, and the nice folks show up to do it. And just working on the outside today. But it interferes with every aspect of your life because we're all at home now. Most of us are at home now. Work from home can be a curse, but I'm happy to be here in the studio, but I wanted to get this done. So I am a big fan of Rob Reiner. I know I don't fault myself or anyone focusing more on Rob Reiner than Michelle Singer Reiner. Her career is, just as long and influential in her own way. Definitely a political activist alongside Rob, with Rob, and maybe even driving some of it forward. So I apologize. I don't have as much to say on her career and her life. Rob Reiner was very public. Rob Reiner was a face. I think Rob Reiner might have been one of the first celebrity faces I kind of recognized. I did tell this story on Pat Conkey's show, but I grew up, born in 1976. So All in the Family was a thing. It was towards the end of its run. I don't even remember when it officially ended. And I don't know what was reruns or syndication or whatever. I don't know. It's some of my earliest memories, though, are watching All in the Family, not understanding what TV was. Maybe I just thought everything was a documentary. We were just watching something live. But it was weird because my dad and Rob Reiner don't look like each other. Stop looking like each other maybe from, I don't know, 80 on. But there was a part where Rob Reiner as Meathead, Michael, looked just like my dad. The longer kind of 70s mustache, the balding but yet wavy winged hair. I mean, it's a stunning thing. So I really grew up for a second thinking my dad was on TV, and it was Rob Reiner. Later on in life, you don't really, I always talk about the pop culture awakening, which for me, 1987, 12 years of age. That's where you go from just watching a movie you love to knowing maybe the people who made the movie. George Lucas is now a director. I know that term, director-writer. That's kind of around the era where you start becoming obsessed with this stuff. And I was right in the perfect age for The Princess Bride. And then a couple years later, right at the perfect age for When Harry Met Sally. Like I was saying, I would have started a When Harry Met Sally podcast. You could still do it. When Harry Met Sally, minute by minute. I could do that now. I was the perfect age to, I was already a lonely kid, already a depressed kid. Billy Crystal's Harry Birds. I never got quite to the point of reading the end of the book in case I died, but I just identified with that. Maybe I've never lived on the East Coast, obviously been there, but I've got a lot of people on the East Coast who are like, you got kind of like an East Coast New York soul. It might be because of When Harry Met Sally. It might be because of that. I fell in love with the idea of depression being your friend. Some of this stuff not healthy, but the ultimate message in the romance of that ultimate rom-com to me is it's more realistic and raw, and the connections can be troubling and painful and challenging, but they're the connections, right? And the Billy Crystal's speech at the end, when you realize you want to start the rest of your life with someone, you want the rest of your life to start right now, is one of my favorite speeches. I actually had that printed out. I typed it up in Final Draft one time, and I had it on my wall, and I loved it. And Nora Ephron, let's make sure we're giving her another person we lost, right? That her skills on full display there. But her and Rob Reiner formed such a partnership in making this film, and so it was around that time that I learned, who Rob Reiner was and who Rob Reiner used to be. Oh, that was the guy that I thought was my dad. Oh, mind blown. Time changed his hairline as I wear a beanie, because otherwise I'd probably look like Meathead too. Maybe we should reboot All the Family, just be wearing beanies. So then Spinal Tap around that time, a little bit later on, high school, college age, like a lot of folks, you discovered Spinal Tap. I did not know Spinal Tap much when it was out in 84, 85 range, and a little bit early for me, but then eventually, yeah. And I got to be honest, that's such an influential movie, which has all to do with Rob Reiner, Christopher Guest, Harry Shearer, Michael McKean, Tony Hedrick, like the whole cast. Like it's perfection in a lot of ways, not just because, and I don't even think it's perfection because it's funny with every beat, right? And I mean, I think it is, but I've shown that movie to other people who didn't grow up with it, and they're like, yeah, okay, good, funny. They didn't laugh out loud, but it's something higher, especially with improv, especially, I'm as God made me, sir. Like all these little lines. Fred Willard might be, rest in peace, Fred Willard might be my favorite scene as the military guy as they play that. I'm going to rewatch that again and again and again. But that movie was so influential to me. And in about 94, 95 range, me and my friends formed a band. But I couldn't play. My friends could play. They were learning. We were putting stuff together. We wrote some songs together. I couldn't sing, couldn't play. This was if you ever heard the tale of my my infamous tambourine ownership, it came from this era. But the real reason I think we wanted to do this is we just wanted to make a documentary about our band that wasn't. Even though we were writing and recording some songs at my radio station, I'd sneak the band in at night, and we record songs in the production studio. I have some of them somewhere. But we did that because we did. And this was prior to cell phones or easy access to cameras, but we got cameras and we filmed a little mockumentary. We just wanted to be in Spinal Tap, man. And then later on the Christopher Guest movies, as Christopher Guest takes that style and just perfects it even more. So I've always loved Rob Reiner, even though it's not necessarily active. You know what I mean? I have a Star Wars podcast. I don't have a Rob Reiner podcast, but like a lot of folks, man, a lot of folks in my age group and lower and even older, Rob Reiner's influence on pop culture was everywhere. And also, I wanted to celebrate the different kind of movies he put together. Going from This Is Spinal Tap to A Few Good Men in just a short amount of time. Throwing in Misery in there, Stand By Me, a movie. I gotta be honest, I didn't see Stand By Me early on. It didn't affect me like other folks, but one of my best friends, that was his movie, man. That changed his life. Princess Bride, William Goldman's script. As I studied screenwriting in the mid-'90s, I studied a lot of Goldman scripts, and Princess Bride's perfection, just everything about it, man. Along with the Lucases, and along with the Spielbergs, I do think we need to give Rob Reiner credit for especially in my generation, forming so much of the pop culture that made us. I always talk about pop culture being the culture. Rob Reiner's very much a part of that. I mean, 2 of his films alone. I don't even need to invest in anything after When Harry Met Sally, though I did. I love A Few Good Men. It's also one of my favorites too. Misery freaked me out. I have seen it, but good job, Stephen King. That one left a mark. But When Harry Met Sally and This Is Spinal Tap, those are 2 of the most influential movies on my career path. It didn't. My screenwriting career didn't go the way it went, and certainly the band I formed in the mid-'90s and the documentary we shot has not seen the light of day, nor should it. But I've And so many of the things that I've put together, or so many of the things that I want to be, or even just who I want to be as a human being, do come from those two movies. And we talk about the Amblin years correctly. We talk about Spielberg. We talk about Lucas. We talk about all the magic that was created during that time. I think, Princess Bride is definitely part of that magic. It's definitely genre magic. But I think we have to make sure, and I think people are this week, giving Rob Reiner the credit for influencing us in many different ways at many different times in our life. So thanks, Rob, for that. And that's why I think this death, as I always say, there's a story every hour of every day that could rock you, that could put you to your knees. And with the Brown University and the Bondi Beach terror attack, like that stuff put a lot of us to our knees, because it's just that here we go again feeling can really, 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 really take its toll on us as a people. And then when you have someone in the White House being so just intentionally divisive over these issues, there's not 1 ounce of me that was surprised by anything Trump said about Rob Reiner. You knew it was going to happen because Rob Reiner had strong words for him, right? But he wasn't the president. The president was supposed to calm things down and divide or stop the division, and did the exact opposite. Not a surprise. I'm not even going to spend a lot of time on that. But the death of Rob Reiner, combined with the manner of he and his wife's death and the stories that have emerged, is what I think is the final psychological straw breaking for a lot of us this past week. I'm on edge. I'm not even sad and depressed. I'm on edge. I'm irritable and angry and upset. I haven't on any of my programming haven't talked about Rob Reiner's death until this episode, because I just didn't know what else I could add. And I also, quite frankly, was disgusted by what just has been going on, but also can't turn away. So then therefore I'm disgusted with myself. What it made me that, God bless true crime influencers and people on the streets. And this isn't just old man screaming at clouds, but I do find it disturbing. How about we just say disturbing? There's a lot of folks taking Instagram, TikTok, and Reels going, "Hi, this is Bob from Knives In Crime Podcast, and I've got the latest on the Rob Reiner movie. And they're doing the little green screen Instagram Reel, TikTok videos, them moving all around. Here's the latest with TMZ say," and it just, and again, I'm seeing it and I'm trying to scroll away, but then I'm like, oh, but I for some reason I want this information, and all the stuff that's emerged of Conan O'Brien's holiday party confrontation with Bill Hader, all this stuff. It's just, I want to turn away, but I can't, because the manner of this death, this heinous double homicide that Nick Reiner committed, killed his parents, it's just cracked my soul. And so the first thing on my mind this week was just wanting to pay tribute, finally, to say in my own way, my own stumbly bumbly way of just thank you, Rob. Thank you for the films you made and the warmth and the connection and humanity that's in these projects. And there's so many different projects he had that you can connect with in so many different ways. Mine, When Harry Met Sally, and Spinal Tap, including Spinal Tap 2, a movie I saw at the premiere. Rob and his entire family were there. I have photos, video of Rob speaking. I don't say that to have any connection to the case. I think that's a side note. Just watching a lot of folks share pictures of, kind of stolen photos at a press event, as if you're connected to this. You're not even supposed to take photos like that at press events, but we love to connect. I think that's the way I don't want to throw too many arrows. I think that's how we process, right? I'm sharing my stories of me thinking my father was Rob Reiner growing up in the 70s, because that's how I'm kind of connecting myself to this tragedy in an effort to process it. So I don't want to hold anyone to the flame on any of that. I'm not sharing my photos that I took of Rob in September of this year. But I'm affected by the death, affected by the murder, and it weighs on me. And it also weighs on me. I want to talk about death a little bit here. It's not necessarily one of the things on my mind, but this is, I don't know if anyone else is like this for me, but we all don't know how we're going to go. We all can have hopes and dreams of how we might want to go, but we don't know the end of our story. And this end for Rob and Michelle is just unimaginable. Unimaginable. That 32 years ago, you gave birth and held in the arms your killer. It freaks me out, but it's also why I understand a little bit of the obsession with the case of it. Why, as much as I am upset at true crime influencers posting the latest, here's the latest news, click, like, subscribe. I am watching because I think that's also how I'm processing it, because I would love to go back to September and run up to Rob and be like, hi, big fan. Anyways, you got to go. You got to change some things. This is not going to end well for you. Don't. I have this a few months before, what was it? Yeah, August. She passed away in December. I co-hosted the Carrie Fisher panel at Wizard World Chicago in 2016, and she passed away. Carrie Fisher passed away, like December of that year. And I keep thinking, she had no idea this is the last chapter. She had no idea that she was in her final days, and that's haunting too. I think that's what's on my mind too for this whole horrible situation with Rob and Michelle. And so we all truly do not know. And it sometimes, my soul can fold in on itself as I think of that and try to process that. And the only thing that I could say is a lesson to take from this in terms of just Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, both who were so politically active, so politically outspoken, put their money where their beliefs were, had a legacy on that side. I got friends whose lives, there's actors whose lives have been forever changed wonderfully by Rob Reiner. And then there's people who I know whose careers in child development and child education are they have them because of actions Rob Reiner took with the first five and everything like that. People who in the mid 2000s with Rob putting all of his money and his beliefs behind the simple concept of quote unquote gay marriage being allowed to happen. I know people who were forever changed in a positive way by the work he did that in that time, and his wife did a lot of work as well. Okay, I apologize for not being super familiar with her work as much as his. That's what I want to take from this. That's where I go with this in terms of just Rob and his wife, not just career, not just content out in the world. I love putting content out in the world. This is content out in the world, but I want to leave something behind because I don't know the end of my story. And what are the lives that I've affected? What are the souls that I've touched? And I don't mean it in a highfalutin, pretentious way, right? I don't want to affect souls, just like what I want to put my head down and do my work and tell the stories I want to do and create the shows and be part of the shows that I want to be part of. Tell the jokes I want to tell. Be the person I feel I could be with the small hopes that when I go, because as I wrote in a song that Brian Tiller just sang here with the Moon Agers, we all run out of time. We all run out of time. What are you leaving behind? You've seen what people have to say about Rob, not in a big global, the guy made movies way, but you're hearing so many stories of actors on sets, small parts, large parts, small parts from people that turned into big stars. You're hearing what he did and how he was. You're hearing sets of stories of him on the set in New Girl. You're hearing even Frank Darabont telling the story of, he wrote Shawshank, wanted to direct it. No one would. Castle Rock, which was Rob's company, it was a film that they wanted Rob to direct. And Frank held his ground, made the film. Rob Reiner watched it, private screening with Darabont pacing in the back. And Rob, with tears in his eyes, said, it's the best film we ever released. Good job. And walked off. And it's like, you hear that. That's a man that's just not here to get his hits in. That was a man that was here to build something and build something with and for other people. And then that's something that I think we all should take from this. And think of all those words and not the words from a president who knows his time is up in many ways and is going to burn it all down or attempt to. We're not going to let him. The other thing on my mind, though, is part of this horror, and I'll go into it briefly. I don't have a ton to say, but I'm not an expert. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not an expert at anything. other than we've all lived life. I will say I feel for the family of the Reiners. I feel for Rami and was it Jake, Rob's other kids, Trace and Reiner, his daughter, Penny Marshall's daughter that Rob adopted and was his daughter going forward. I feel, and the friends, and Billy Crystal and Larry David and Albert Brooks, all these friends. I feel so sad for them. So I want that to be first. I do feel sorry for, I will just say it. I'm uncomfortable saying it. I feel slightly, I have a little bit of sorrow for Nick as well. No excuses. Justice will be served, all those things. But man, I have seen the struggles of addiction. Not something I have, but I've seen it in families, and I've seen it in friends, and I've seen it in people I've worked with, and I've heard the stories. And man, I think there's an honest conversation about how best to navigate it and how hard it is for parents to navigate it. And some fail completely, and some try and still come up short. And I think there's been some honest revelations of how hard the Reiners tried with him, and how maybe at one point it seemed okay. At one point there seemed to be victory, and maybe everyone wanted victory more than there actually was victory. And none of this is said as an excuse. It's just tragic. It's part of the tragedy for me. And it's also the conversation sometimes too around it. This is a mental health conversation for me. As a lot of you know, how I've grown up, conservative Christian background. One of the biggest problems I've developed with that over the years is it's not the beliefs, it's not the existence of God or Jesus is the Son of God. Any of those bigger things, like, it's never been my problem. But looking back, the lack of understanding or willingness to understand mental health from within the Christian communities. Again, I speak generally. If it's not you, I don't need you to comment. But in general, the way they treat it, the way they look at it, just makes me more frustrated. Because I've heard this phrase before. We lost her to drugs. We lost him to drugs. And drugs to this level, the type of drugs that might have been taken over Nick's life, are not good, right? But it all got wrapped up, especially in the 80s, especially in the Just Say No 80s. It got all wrapped up in the drug war, and it got all wrapped up in this mindset in which, by saying, my opinion, because I'm not an expert, but when you say, oh, we lost him to drugs, you are using that as this big kind of barrier between what is going on and the why of it. There is this idea in the circles that I grew up in that, you have that one drink, you toke that weed once, this too could happen to you. And look, I've heard stories of one hit of heroin being the thing that turned the tide. As I said, I don't understand addiction from a point of an expert, right? I drink completely moderate. I'd sometimes go 3-4 weeks and realize, oh yeah, I have a bottle of whiskey in the house, right? Okay, maybe I'll have a shot tonight. I don't have that, right? I don't have that, and I've come to understand that more. Even though I admit I sometimes poke at my friends, like, come on, have a drink. But in a serious situation with someone who's like, no, I'm supportive, and I want that to be clear. There's a blathering version and there's a real life version, all mixed and intertwined. But I'm not an expert on this. But what I don't like about it, and I've seen it a little bit around this week in this horrific incident, is that we lost him to drugs just covers up so many things. And this isn't about the Reiners. This is about the general thing and the circles in which I grew up with, in which mental health and getting help for your mental health is so misunderstood, or was misunderstood, and is so overlooked, and is sometimes oddly almost criminalized, where if you did that stuff, boom, you're down the path. You're down the path of sin. It's more about sin. You're going straight to hell than what's actually going on. If you have someone saying, well, we lost him to drugs, the question has to be, well, why? What drove them there? What were they running from? What can we do? And it's an ongoing battle again. And that this week brought up that for me. I think that's why I will publicly say I have a little bit of, not understanding, not forgiveness, but I have a little bit of sorrow and sympathy for Nick and his mind and his soul and his heart. And some of the stuff that's come out since, there's been a lot of people, and I understand it, seeing old interviews, especially when they were promoting the movie Being Charlie 10 years ago, but old interviews or even photos at events. Oh, he doesn't look right. He doesn't look all there. He doesn't look well. Yeah, no shit. No shit. And it ain't just the drugs. That's what's going on inside. That's what the wire, and that's why it's so hard, despite even, I think, two parents who truly, with all their resources, tried to do the best. But that wasn't enough, and how frustrating and painful that had to be and was for them, and tragically was for them, versus someone who I think without a doubt at some point probably wanted to be okay, probably wanted to be victorious over this battle with addiction, probably wanted all these things, probably didn't want this. I go back to how we talked about this in the past and how it's just not understood. And in my circles, running to drugs was the end of the conversation. Running to sex was the end of the conversation. We didn't seek the whys and the solutions beyond that shore. So if there's anything on a bigger scale than just what I was talking about with Rob and his legacy and Michelle and her legacy, if there's anything else that can come out of this, I would hope maybe that it's this a push for other families affected to continue to search for the why. And it's an ongoing battle. I know. Again, personally, not an addict. Some people around me, some people in my life, past and present, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know people who have been addicts, who are in recovery, a constant battle, yes, who have gone on to seek higher education, get the diplomas on the walls so that they can take their experiences to help others too. And it's something that I really support. And I hope the conversation can continue to change a little bit after the tragedy this week. I'd love to end on something fun and silly. I just want to do a little brief third thing on my mind is in all the stuff going on this week. It's definitely not buried. It's definitely not buried to those whose very existence is challenged by these kind of things. But once again, we have this bill got passed. They call it the MTG, the Marjorie Taylor Greene bill of ending gender affirming care for children, for minors, passed in the House. Whether it will pass in the Senate or not at the time of this recording, I don't know. I haven't waded too much into that to say I'm a political expert on that bill. But once again, this bill and the conversation around it has elevated the issue, I'll say issue of the rights of transgender humans. And the way I say issue is that their existence shouldn't be an issue, right? Shouldn't be an issue. And it's one of the big dividing lines for me, to where if we have political differences, even if you voted for the Orange Fuhrer, I'll try to meet you on the field a little bit to discuss some of what you think about affordability or the best answers for it. I'll try. It's hard. It's pretty much impossible. But when it comes to the rights of human beings, there's people in and around, hovering around the Trump administration that are on record of trying to, criminalize homosexuality, right? We have those folks out there. And this week, because of this bill and the conversation around it, once again, the basic existence of these wonderful humans is legally in question, if that makes sense. Again, I'm not talking specifically about the bill. I'm talking about, boom, here it comes up again. And it just pains me because I do think it's based so much in ignorance. So much in ignorance. So much of these people in these positions of power, whether they be politicians, church leaders, or just older generations, who are basing so much of the push to criminalize these human beings and their journey that starts pretty young. They're doing this push to wipe them out without an understanding, a full understanding, or a desire to comprehend anything about their journey. I do not profess to know 1% of what it would be like to go on that journey, to transition my gender, or to question my gender identity, or to, even just a non-binary or changing pronouns, any of those things. I do not profess to know that journey, 1% of it. And I have in the past have said, I will even say I don't even fully understand all of it. Meaning, when this started to step forward as a big battlefield in the culture war, my views on it have grown. I won't say changed, they've grown. Because I grew up in an era where even gay people always existed. Transgender people were always there. I grew up in an era where it was not. There were punchlines. Their very existence were punchlines. And maybe there was punchlines that I took a part of at 12, 13, 16, 17, 18. There's some of your favorite shows, some of my favorite shows over the years, not long ago, where the punchline was someone's sexual identity, someone's gender identity. Right? We all know. And this isn't me holding those things, those shows, those creators to the flame. It's just going, hey, that's where this all started. That's where this all started. But it frustrates me, pains me, it angers me to have politicians and church leaders, cultural leaders, just even people I know, base so much of their hatred on a lack of willingness to even understand this journey. So as the conversation picks up again, it's always there. It's easy for me to turn away because this is not part of my daily battle unless I choose to make it part of my daily battle. But for other people, even the act of getting up and going outside as a trans woman or as a trans man or just someone who would prefer to, or not prefer, would like you, would please refer to me as they, them, right? Just going outside is the battle. Just going outside is a form of resistance on a good day. It's a reason to have fear on most days. I don't have to live that world, right? So, but for me, as this bill gets passed in the House and moved to the Senate, it's part of the conversation again, so it's on my mind. So I'm privileged enough to discuss it here. And I don't have the answer. All I can say, like I was saying, like I didn't initially, when this started happening, I didn't fully understand it. Why would I understand it? I never questioned it. Born a boy, felt a boy, stayed a boy. That's my journey. Never once questioned it. Still don't, right? And so 10, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, there was still kind of a, I don't know. I don't understand. For me, confessing that, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want anything bad to happen. I just don't understand. I don't understand the why. And I think that's okay to ask. I wish more of these people in positions of power who are using their power and position and platforms to destroy the very existence of trans human beings. I wish they gave themselves the permission to go, I don't fully understand it. I don't know why. Because that was kind of my starting point. I think I was raised nice enough, ironically, by a community that is not often nice enough. But I was raised just nice enough to treat people as people, right? Yeah, even if I don't understand. Like, I understand how you dress like that. You're in a polo shirt? I don't understand it. But when it comes down to it, I'm a nice enough little boy that I just kind of let it all go. But that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough. So from that point of just not understanding it, I made the choice to try to either understand it or put myself in their shoes, or, as I said before, even in stand-up act. I don't think those folks, I don't think anyone who is transgender needs my understanding. I think they just need my support. And so many people try to erase their very existence based completely out of a lack of understanding and a lack of wanting to understand, based on what they think rules say, what they think the Bible said, or what just makes them uncomfortable and they don't know because they're challenged. I sound like a 1960s folk singer wanting to change the world through song. It's just so easy. I just want them to have an understanding. But I grieve this week that once again, that young folks, again, I don't know the specifics of the bill. I'm not here to even have a nuanced conversation about the bill. But all I know is that, these journeys begin young, right? These journeys begin young, and there's so many folks that just don't want to understand that. It all goes back to mental health, too. It's all kind of the same thing to me. They focused on the drugs. Do you want this to happen to your children? Do you want a man to become a woman and beat you in swimming? Eee. All these big issues, but they don't go down to the journeys we're all on, and the bad ones and the good ones, and how maybe we can help turn bad journeys into better journeys. And it all kind of begins with understanding and compassion and empathy and all those words that we all love saying and we should continue to repeat, but are lost on so many who should be better because of the positions they have. So that's on my mind this week. Serious episode, sad episode. Support the rights of human beings. Support the rights of human beings to simply exist and to have the freedom and safety to go on their journeys. Because you've been on yours. And none of these journeys are perfect. And none of these journeys are a straight line. We can all hope that maybe one day it'll be better. So in these dark times, the final thing on my mind, a bonus thing, 4 things on my mind. Do not push off the ideas we've talked around these parts of being kind, being caring, and checking in on the people around you. A text, a call, an email, a nudge, whatever it is. We are more and more in a world that is devaluing connection, pulling us away from connection. And this isn't just a get off your phone speech. I'm on my phone all the time because my life's on that phone. Maybe how they designed it, I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I'm on the phone. I can't even call it a phone. The mini computer. This isn't just about that. Because there's people in our lives that we are connected to, people in our lives that we do love, but not just because it's the end of the year, not just because it's the holidays, but because we're all on our own journeys. Reach out, connect. Even if you're the one that needs connection more than they do, even though you might be the one in need of more help than they are, reach out. The help will come back. I love y'all. Let's get to some silly stuff on the Blathering this weekend. Let's find the joys, because that is a form of resistance as well. We're all fully functional, 360-degree humans, mostly. I'm in the mostly. But we're going to, in the face of so many horrible things, still find some time to laugh, find joy, and eat something bad for fun. You can support over on these parts by becoming a YouTube channel member. There, you get to call into the Blathering, or by becoming a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/Napzok. Appreciate you all. That's it. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.